Hello all, I am Dr. Vibhash Vaidya and today in this video we are going to discuss about the histology of esophagus. So student, as we have already discussed, the esophagus is also known as the food pipe and it is an approximately 25 cm long muscular tube. It begins at the level of the cricoid cartilage proximally and continues with the oropharynx distally, and you can see here in this schematic diagram of the esophagus, it passes through the posterior mediastinum and finally it penetrates the diaphragm and opens into the cardiac end of the stomach. You can see here this is the stomach and here we have a cardiac end of the stomach. Now the microscopic features of the esophagus. So the esophagus mainly consists of 4 layers, as you can see in this picture. From most inner to outer, it is consist of 4 important layers. That is, the first inner layer is known as the mucosa. After that we have a submucosa, then muscularis externa, and this muscularis externa is made of inner circular and outer longitudinal, and most exterior, that is a 4th layer, it is known as the serosa or adventitia. So student, one by one we are going to discuss about their different layers of the esophagus. So first layer is a mucosa. So as you can see here, upper one, these two are the schematic picture of the esophagus, and first layer is mucosa, as we have already discussed, and further this mucosa is made of 3 layers. Most inner part is known as the lining epithelium, then here we have a lamina propria and the muscularis mucosa. So this, if we are talking about the lining epithelium, the lining epithelium of the esophagus on the both the diagram, you can see here, it is non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Here you can see this non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. We can appreciate here it is multi-layer, and most apical part, here we have a squamous cells, and also we can appreciate here this lining epithelium rests on the lamina propria, which is a 2nd layer of the mucosa, and here we can also appreciate this lamina propria has a few lymphoid follicles. As you can see here, it has a few lymphoid follicles. After the lamina propria, we have a muscularis mucosa, and this muscularis mucosa is very thin layer of the mucosa, and which separates mucosa from the submucosal layer. Here you can see this is a submucosal layer on the both the diagram. Here we have a submucosal layer and this is the mucosa, and here we can see this is a muscularis mucosa. Further, this muscularis mucosa is consist of inner circular and outer longitudinal layer of the smooth muscle. We can appreciate here it is made of inner circular layer and outer longitudinal layer. This is the muscularis mucosa. Now after the mucosa we have another layer, that is a submucosa. Here we can see in this diagram, this is the submucosal layer, and this submucosal layer has a mucus gland, and this mucus gland is also known as the esophageal gland. You can see in this picture, on the both the picture we have a esophageal gland, and this esophageal gland which secretes the mucus, and this mucus which act as a lubricant of this esophagus. Further, this apart from this submucosal gland, this submucosal layer is also consists of loose connective tissue. We can see here these are the loose connective tissue, and apart from the loose connective tissue, it forms the blood vessels. Here we can see the small blood vessels and the lymphatics, and it also has a plexus of the autonomic nerve, that is also known as the submucosal plexus, or also called as the Meissner's plexus. So this Meissner's plexus is important, which is present in the submucosa of the esophagus. After the submucosa, here we have a third layer, that is a muscularis externa. This muscularis externa is mainly made of two layers, that is the inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. And this muscularis externa is very thick layer, and it differs in different region of the esophagus. That is, in the upper 1/3 of the esophagus, which is consist of skeletal muscle. Then the middle 1/3, which is made of mainly both skeleton and the smooth muscles, and the lower 1/3 part, which is nearer to the cardiac end of the stomach, and this lower 1/3 part of the esophagus is only made of smooth muscles. So as we have already discussed, this muscularis externa is consists of two layers. You can appreciate in this picture the inner circular and this outer longitudinal layer. The both the pictures we can see the inner circular and the outer longitudinal layer. And also remember, students, in between this inner circular and the outer longitudinal layer of this muscle, here lies a plexus of the autonomic nerves, and this plexus of the autonomic nerve is also known as the Meissner's plexus. In exam time it will be asked, what is Meissner's plexus? So always remember, the Meissner's plexus is present between the inner circular and outer longitudinal layer of the muscularis externa. Then the contraction of these layers, which propels the food content of the esophagus. Now the fourth layer, that is known as the serosa or adventitia. Here we can see most outer part of this esophagus, and this fourth layer in the thoracic part of the esophagus is known as the adventitia, and the abdominal part of the esophagus is known as the serosa. That is the histology of the esophagus. I hope all of you understood the topic. Thank you for watching.